enterprises. So, and many issues, for example, bribery of a president or miscarriage of his constitutional duty process. So they would like to hold the information session or conference meetings. And the disagreement would often lead to some in-depth engagement. For example, the committee report from Senate or House would be reduced. In some cases, the issue needs to be discussed more extensively, and the conference committee report would be prepared. The kind of information would have to sharpen our perspective or the understanding of that specific statute. So I made one assumption about that endeavor. So to split opinions now in tension with that one. So the role of justices would be limited to explicit language or provision provided by Congress. It would be unwise, or in some cases unnecessary, to distract the focus of a court of judicial law. In some cases, justices would not be preferable for kind of extended research. In other cases, just would consider it necessary to expand our scope of review in interpreting the statute provision. Justice Scalia, for example, would be one advocacy for the former view, and we'll see also comment from Justice John Paul Stevens. So we see no reason why a conscientious judge should not feel free to examine all public records that may shed light on the meaning of statute. So this view would fall within the latter perception. The rest of the information is one area in which there can be striking differences between federal and state research. So this is the point that you would encounter in experiences of legal research against the court cases. The federal rest of history would vary in a greater availability of references. So you have no difficulty virtually to record your materials you intend to seek. However, the rest of the story of state researcher would not be in any systemic way of provisions, and many records would be waived in the process about recordation. So no public record could be present in some cases. And also you need to bring an attention about time limitation from major commercial businesses. For example, even in the federal rest of history, you will see some limited context of availability. For example, Westro would extend coverage, placed as a record between since 1994, 1995, and the LexisNexis, who a little further in extended period. However, it also been limited since 1989 wise. In terms of the stateless history, the situation would be worse if you really act on legal research. So, federal legislative history, in fact, is thoroughly documented with numerous sources. Though of time limitation, while availability of state legislative history varied widely from state to state. On both the federal and state level, however, this is an area in which the internet has made significant contributions to the dissemination of information. The government websites facilitates learning about the status of pending legislation and obtaining documents relating to recently passed acts. So research into the background of all the acts of Congress, however, still requires access to printed sources and resources on all the state laws, if they exist at all, may be found only on tape recordings or in archives at the state capitol. So you will see in pattern through most updated and the most antedated deals. So the online sources and print sources, and finally you have to seek archives at the state capitol. So all what actually is some all form of documents, public recordings, who take place in the corner of shelf. So it might require strenuous effort, more strenuous, to make it come under your review. So, but actually, it typically shows the pattern of our living mode. So, actually, electronic communication, very governing to shape a contemporary subsistence. And legal research also is affected, very extensive. Yes, so you now have no difficulties if you are on recent issues. So online sources will satisfy your search very readily by the Supreme Court websites. So you will have some basic information concerning the federal legislative process, and this understanding will support your scope of legal research involving the evidence of statute or others. So what is the basis? You now some notorious website, the Library of Congress Thomas system. Overview of federal legislative process can be found in two brief congressional guides prepared by House and Senate parliamentarians and available from their website. So Thomas, that the LOC, what does it stand for? And the government, under the heading, the legislative process. More extensive guides to congressional lawmaking procedures are also available, which is a piece of text materials and research materials. So the official compilation of a procedure would be discussed scholarly. In scholarly, there is some basic form of introduction for students. Charles Deeper, Congressional Practice and Procedure, reference, research and lesson guide, published in 1989. It is a comprehensive treatise on congressional practice procedure with extended explanation of committee organization and procedure, rules governing floor delays, and consideration of bills, conference committee procedure, and other matters such as the budget and appropriations process. And another piece of work would be congressional procedure and the policy process, published in 2007. And they also water policy. It is a more concise explanation of lawmaking process with a focus on the way floor consideration is scheduled and managed in each house. It includes several useful tables and handy glossary and congressional tables. More in-depth coverage of Westland is provided by Walter Kravis, Congressional Quarterly's American Congressional Dictionary. It was published in 2001, which defines hundreds of terms and phrases such as continuing resolution and engrossed bill. So the concern and interest would compose kind of one scholar preacher, as you see. So we have terms and phrases to be consistent in our understanding about rest of history and legal research. So that aspect would be done effectively to provide you an insight and understanding. Michael L. Campbell, Judy A. Schneider also published the book titled Congressional Desk Book, biannual. It is a regularly updated practical guide to congressional politics and procedures filled with illustrations, interesting facts, and research tips. Background reference works for understanding Congress and its work in the historical and political context include Congressional Quarterly's Guide to Congress. This two-volume set has a wide range of political, historical, and statistical information. In this book, you'll find part 3 titled Congressional Procedure. It is particularly useful in understanding committee and floor action. One of the most thorough reference works is Encyclopedia of the United States Congress. It provides a broad historical and political science perspective on the institution. And also in the printout, you will find a website, for example, LSDC's legislative source book, Thomas-LOC-government, and also the government printing office called GPO, oftentimes, who will be one entity you will be frequented about this concern, GPO, government printing office. Others are commercial sites, including Westrow and Lexis. One of the most important providers of congressional documentation is a company called the Congressional Information Service Incorporation, now a subsidiary of LexisNexis. The CIC databases are available as part of regular Nexis subscription. A separate system called LexisNexis Conversion provides more extensive search templates focusing specifically on legislative information. And from a series of subtitles which denotes the process, each stage of listed process. And we begin with preliminary and informal consideration. So, as I've said, the motivation to initiate the listed proceeding would come in diverse way. So, no typical pattern of initiation was prescribed by constitution or other public laws, unlike Korea. So, you have two formal provisions about the Korean deals in listed process. So, often you are inquired if the government has an initiative to propose bill. Very simple constitutional question, which will be in your final exam. There is no definite commitment or any provision in the constitutional democracy of the United States. No constitutional provision is available. Who is responsible to propose a bill? So, and who actually have been authorized to propose bill? So that would be ambiguous. In practice, the congressman represent the proposed bill in his name or title. Nonetheless, the practical aspect in this concern would not be definite and often driven by many influences. So, newspaper, for example, presidential recommendation would publish in less formal manner in some cases as a press release of fact sheets available on the White House website. For example, some message available in a website may show President Bush's support for HR 1350. The bill would eventually become the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act of 2004. So the implicit collaboration or coordination would often conventional. So they